Life in the International Legion, what to expect, some of my experiences. I want to share all of that in this video. I had no prior military experience before I joined the International Legion. I was a firefighter and an EMT, so I had some medical skills, which allowed me to join the Legion. So this will be kind of a unique perspective on somebody who had zero military experience going straight into a combat role. As far as life in the International Legion, it breaks down into two major parts: the training aspect and then the frontline aspect once you actually deploy. I'm gonna break it down pretty much every single step, but I'm gonna go as fast as possible so this isn't a boring video, but I want you to be informed. First off, you have to set a meeting with the International Legion. You'll probably interview with a gentleman named Bullet if he's still there. He interviewed most of the people that I was with. He's an American, so obviously he speaks perfect English. You show up, he'll ask you a bunch of questions, ask you your military experience, if you have any combat experience, blah, 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 blah. If he deems you fit, he will say right then and there, okay, we're gonna have a vehicle come pick you up in about 30 minutes to an hour. With the rest of these guys who are joining, they're gonna take you to the military base for training. One of the most memorable experiences for me in my entire Ukraine experience was when we loaded up onto the truck into the back of this basically Jeep with the back open. It was winter, it was cold. I loaded up with a bunch of other people. None of us knew each other, except for a couple of French guys who had already previously been on the front, and they had to cycle back through and go through training because they were injured. One of them was missing a finger. So there was about 6 of us, I believe. Most of us didn't know each other. We're all in the back of this truck, riding out to this barracks or this Ukrainian military base, thinking, oh shit, like I'm doing this. I'm in the Legion. Once you arrive, your commanders are already out front of the barracks waiting for you. They introduce you, you stand at attention, you do the whole 9 yards. The people who are already there in the barracks, there's already some people who have been there training. Basically what they do is they recruit people into the barracks until they get a full company size or a full platoon, and then they'll deploy them out after training. So some people end up being there longer than others because there's just not enough people to deploy with yet. So there was a handful of people there already when I arrived. I met those guys. They kind of walked me through what was going on, what to expect. A lot of them were kind of waiting around because the instructors didn't want to start training yet until they had a full group. So I'd say we spent about 3 days kind of, getting adjusted to things. The barracks was basically just a massive room and with a bunch of cots in it. It smelled like, guys and sweat and shit, and it was gross because you had a bunch of grown-ass men sleeping shoulder to shoulder with each other, basically. You have all your belongings and everything stuffed under your cot. Like that's your zone. After a few days of just getting accustomed to stuff, we had enough of a group of people to start our training. So we were informed the night before, hey, we're gonna start training in the morning, be ready. And we weren't. About 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m. rolls around and people start yelling and gunfire starts going off in the barracks. The instructors came in with real weapons, but with blanks in them, and they're firing the blanks through the barracks, and they also rolled in a couple of smoke grenades. So all of us were waking up out of a dead sleep. There's smoke, there's gunfire, they're yelling and screaming, get your gear on, get your gear on. So you're putting all your battle rattle on, right? Your helmet, your plate carrier, you're getting all your stuff on, trying to get your boots on, like get outside, get outside, get outside. And I was in such a stupor that I ended up putting 2 left-footed boots on. The left boot from one pair of boots and the other left boot from another pair of boots. So I'm like getting outside, trying to get out there. Everybody's going. It's getting really hard to kind of breathe because of all the smoke in the barracks. So we all get out there and everybody's like, what the fuck just happened? And we have to get into formation. And it's dark as shit out and it's cold. It's the middle of winter in Eastern Europe, and we go on a ruck, we go on a hike. Probably about not even 5 minutes in, my feet were killing me, and I realized that I was wearing 2 left-footed boots. So about 5 minutes into this, what ended up being like a 10-kilometer hike, my feet were just killing me, and I'm like, what is going on? And I see my boots were messed up. That was a struggle. I ended up falling behind in the pack. And one of the instructors was like hanging back with me. He's like, come on, you gotta go. He was this French guy. And I'm like, my boots are fucked up. I got the wrong boots on. And he didn't speak the best English. He's like, it's okay, come on, go. So finally, what felt like an eternity, we turn up back to the barracks. We're all done. They say, okay, get a couple more hours of sleep, and then we'll start training. When you wake up, we'll skip PT, we'll start training. Physical training, right? PT. We get back, I take my boots off, everybody's like exhausted, but like, hey, we just did that together, like that was rad. And you know, most people there have been through a boot camp already in their previous military experience, so this wasn't super new to them. The live fire and shit going through, and the smoke grenades in the barracks was definitely unique from what they were saying. That didn't happen in the U.S. military or you know, French or British, but everybody was stoked. We did that together. It was crazy. Now we crashed out for another like 2 hours maybe, and then you're up. Now, typically on any other day when we're not woken up like that, which happened probably about once a week, or if we did some stupid shit, we got in trouble, you knew the next they were gonna run our shit the next morning, 3 a.m. Everybody was like, yeah, they're gonna wake us up. So we started knowing if we got in trouble as a unit, that come 3 a.m., most of us were already ready. We're like, we know what's gonna happen. Then they start running through the barracks, bop, 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 bop. But on a standard day where something like that doesn't happen in the middle of the night, you'll wake up 6 to 7 a.m., you'll do PT, which was much less rigorous than like those big rucks where we're woken up in the middle of the night. You do mostly body exercises, push-ups, sit-ups, jumping jacks, lunges. Then you do a handful of laps around the track, and then you're done with that. You come in, you gotta clean up your area, clean up your bunk and your zone, and then each section that we had Alpha, Bravo, Charlie. Each section had a different job of chores basically to do around the barracks. Some people had bathroom duty, the other had cleaning the barracks, not the bathroom part, but the actual barracks, like sweeping and mopping around the bunks. And then there was kitchen duty. Once everybody finished up their jobs, everybody kind of chilled out, waited for the food truck. The food truck was some locals, I believe, some local women who would prepare us all food, homemade food that they would make, and they would bring it breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So we would finish our chores and our duties for the morning, and then food truck would come, we'd go get all the food, bring it in, everybody would eat, and then we would go train for the pretty much the whole day. Should have mentioned this off the start, but this process, this boot camp, if you will, for the International Legion is anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. We were there for 7, I believe. All of our training was centered around exactly what would be useful and what we were gonna see on the front line. It was combat training, troop movements, moving in a 2-man team, a 4-man fire team, even up to platoon movements. We would do a lot of bounding, moving, covering, or cover fire, practice assaulting, practice defending. We would dig trenches and learn the best way to dig trenches and fortifications. We spent a lot of time doing mock patrols where the commanders would actually set out booby traps and makeshift landmines in our patrol route, and we would have to find those. And if somebody set one of them off, then the team would have to carry them as a casualty through the rest of the patrol. That was pretty cool. It was very it's very applicable, I feel like, especially after I went to the front line, because there's just shit everywhere. So doing training like that really makes you more aware of your surroundings, what's going on, looking for tiny, thin fishing wire around your ankle level. Learned about explosives, launchers, different kinds of frag grenades, offensive grenades and defensive grenades. And we even learned how to crawl through a minefield if we found ourselves in this position, feel for the mines with like a stick, and then mark it so the people behind us would know, hey, there's a mine here, go around. Now, after training or during training, there was always typically about 2 to 4 air raid sirens, air raid alarms, where you would have to run back into the barracks, get all your gear on, run out into the forest where we had some bunkers and stuff set up just in case our base was hit by enemy missiles. Air raid alarms could last anywhere from 30 minutes up to 6 hours. Then lights out was at 10 p.m. and then you would have a fire watch shift if it was your section's time. Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie would all take a night. Like Alpha would be Monday, Bravo would be Tuesday, Charlie would be Wednesday. We would all have a night for fire watch, and then you would split the fire watch 2 hours each member of the section. So if it was my turn, I would have like midnight to 2 a.m. for fire watch. Somebody would come wake me up. I'd go watch the front of our barracks with the gun, when my 2 hours was up, I'd go wake up the next guy in my section that was on the list for 2 to 4 a.m., you know. When I first arrived, there was no fire watch shift, but one of the guys that ended up joining with me, he was not with me, but at the same time that I joined, it was this German guy, and he was just strange. And he kept making comments about he's just here to kill, and he just wants to kill, and he was just really weird. And then one day, some people saw him in the barracks, like when the rest of us were out training, some people saw him in the barracks, like pulling people's flags off the walls and posters, and it was just weird as shit. So our commanders were like, you're crazy, you can't be here. They kicked him out, and on his way, once they kicked him out, he said, I'll be back to kill you guys, blah, blah, blah. Because of this crazy German dude, he made us have fire watch for the remainder of the weeks that we were there. Everybody was so pissed at this guy, but we never saw that dude again anyways. That's pretty much the day-to-day, Monday through Friday of the International Legion training. Like I said, it's anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. Now on the weekends, which is pretty much what everybody was living for, we would usually get leave time where we could go out to the biggest city nearby and people could party and, you know, drink and, you know, do infantry crazy shit. For those of you who don't know, I am coming up on 8 years completely sober. I used to have a crazy drinking problem when I was younger, when I was a kid. Coming up on 8 years sober, so I didn't partake in any of those festivities. Sometimes I would go out with the guys and hang out with them for like 30 minutes to an hour and be like, all right guys, I'm gonna peace out. I'd go back to my hotel room and then I would shower. This is the only time you get to shower is when they let us go into the city over the weekends. So I'd shower, I'd lay in a nice bed, you know, play on my phone with good Wi-Fi, you know, the simple things, but they were luxuries. Biggest rule about the weekends was you had to be back on base in the barracks by 5 p.m., I believe, sober. There was no wiggle room about this. Back Sunday, 5 p.m., sober, have food truck came, have dinner, lights out at 10, back in training on Monday. Anybody who knows the military knows, at least the American military, probably knows that the infantry units, guys can go pretty hard. And a lot of these guys struggled with that rule about arriving back at the barracks completely sober. So when that would happen, they would come back, they would still be drunk. Our commanders would know it right away. They're drunk. You know, they caused issues in the barracks because they were drunk. They'd either get kicked out or we would lose our weekend privileges for the following weekend. So then the entire barracks basically hated that person for the whole week. By my 6th or 7th week that we were there, we had finished the entire training program. We had basically graduated and we were waiting to deploy. Now, new groups of people had filtered into the barracks and there was a ton of people. There was like 60, 70 guys in this barracks at this point. When I arrived, I think there was 20 of us. My group who's ready to deploy, we're done with training, so we're basically sitting around the barracks all day, getting our gear ready, making everything, you know, ready for the front line, and everybody's kind of on edge and aggravated. We all want to go, we all want to get out of the barracks. We've been here for too long, there's too many people now. Then finally, the day came around where we were told, okay, today's the day we're deploying, and everybody lost their minds. We're like, let's go. And so we all got our shit. We were told deploying in 2 hours, get your shit, we're going. Everybody got their gear on, packed up all their bags and their stuff that they had. We'd been living in this place for the last 2 months in this barracks, right? Everybody got their stuff, we loaded onto the bus, we took off to the eastern side of Ukraine. That was basically it. That was the day-to-day International Legion training. I have nothing else to compare it to as far as military experience. This was my first type of boot camp, if you will. Some of the guys I was with said, oh, this is nothing like the boot camp that I was in. And then other people were like, this is crazier than the boot camp I was in. So maybe it depends on what branch, what your MOS or your job was in the military. I really don't know. But for me, it was crazy. And looking back at it, I miss it. It's weird. I hated it at the time and now I miss it. You know, I miss the guys. So this ended up being way longer than I expected. So the part 2 of this video, life in the International Legion on the front line, I'll do in a completely separate video so it's not too long and too wordy. But we'll leave it at here. Like, subscribe to all that stuff. I love you guys. I'll post more tomorrow.